Good morning. Good morning, everyone. If you can please take your seats. S'il vous plaît, bonjour. On va commencer. Merci. Malik, I'm calling a point of order. Doing a school team.
Hola.
Je crois qu'on va commencer. Bonjour. Je demanderai aux techniciens de baisser la musique, s'il vous plaît. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. Bonjour. We are going to get started. Ah, I'm missing the slides. Qu'est-ce qu'ils ont fait? Yeah, okay. Good morning and a very warm welcome to all of you to this session, working session, Advancing Safe and Inclusive Road Design in North and West Africa. I will start immediately with some housekeeping rules. For the French-speaking people and also Arabic, I believe we have translation in 6 languages, apparently, we have been told. So make sure you use your headsets. The 2 speakers at the table will be speaking in French. So we'll be switching very often from French to English. And you just press on the buttons to find the channel that corresponds to the language that you want to follow. Maybe we can close the door as well. It's a bit noisy. It's a very big room, as you can notice. This was supposed to be a smaller group roundtable kind of conversation, but we're very grateful to the Moroccan host who have been very generous in making this room available for us. Why we're here today, it's we just wanted to take the opportunity to bring everybody around the table to share with you some insights and information about this new project that has just started, and taking advantages of this setting and the conference to make sure that we connect, we try to identify the synergies, potential synergies, and that we learn to, all of us, to work together. Let me introduce myself properly as well, although I think I know most of the people in this room. My name is Susanna Zamataro. I am the Director General of the International Road Federation, which is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. I think you all know IRF by now. We are independent, not-for-profit organization born in 1948, just after the Second World War, for reconstruction. So our DNA is infrastructure, but of course the organization has over the years evolved as much as the sector has evolved. I have the great pleasure to be your host together with UNESCO and also your moderator for this session. On the slide, you see quite a number of speakers. These are not only good friends, but excellent professionals from wonderful organizations who do meaningful work around the issues of safety, and in particular, when it comes to infrastructure. So a warm welcome to all of you, and also thank you very much for making the time in this very busy schedule this week to be with us and to discuss. How this session is going to work. After this initial welcome, I will take a few moments, 8 minutes hopefully, to present to you the project, and I have a couple of slides for that. We will then open this roundtable conversation, meaning that I will pass the floor to the speakers that you have seen on this slide, including some additional speakers that we have the pleasure to host today. And I just have in front of me Federica Deled, and I'm very grateful, the head of the Italian police, who also will give us a little bit another perspective from somebody who stands on that piece of infrastructure enforcing law. We will then open the floor as well for interventions. This room looks very formal, but please, we are here to really get to know each other, understand what's going on in the region and beyond the region, get an understanding, in fact, from similar approaches in other regions, and that's why we have the pleasure to welcome as well representatives from the Multilateral Development Banks, Jamie from the ADB, Manuel from Latin America, IDB, EBRD as well. Okay, I think I will use my phone to make sure I keep within time. Let's get started. I want to, first of all, put a little bit of framework of why this project has been initiated. I think you should be, by now, after this couple of days here in Marrakesh at the Ministerial Conference, familiar with the target, the UN voluntary target specifically addressing infrastructure, target 3 and target 4. Target 3 concerns existing new infrastructure, so the target is that by 2030, which is in just 5 years' time, all new roads will have to match a 3 stars rating or better in terms of safety of all road users. And target 4 is about existing infrastructure by 2030. And I repeat, it's in 5 years' time, 75% of travel on existing roads should be an equivalent of 3-star or better when it comes to safety. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. This project spans as well out of this collective effort around the 10-step plan for safer road infrastructure. It's a framework that we develop collectively, not just the IRF, but a number of colleagues, and many of them are in the room, including and especially the colleagues of IRAP. This document and this framework was conceived within the United Nations Road Safety Collaboration, UNRSC, and it spanned simply from the reflection that we realized we had so much expertise around the table, but yet each one of us was going to these countries and especially low and middle income countries with separate projects. And so we decided to create some sort of a framework, a guide that would help countries move in the right direction and achieve their targets when it comes to road safety. Sorry. The 10-step plan framework, you see on the screen exactly how it unfolds. I won't go into all this. The publication is available on the IRF website, on our knowledge center, the GTKP, as much as you will find it on the IRAP colleagues' website. It's very simple. I think you have to really think of it in 3 parts. In the first part, we take a good picture of what is happening in the country. We try to understand what the country has in terms of not only challenges, but also documents, legislation, guiding manuals, and so also try to understand how the system is functioning from an institutional point of view. Who has competence for what, and how the different agencies within the countries are connecting. In the second part of the approach, we start diving a little bit into what are the design standards existing in there, and do we have capacity, not just institutional, but also in terms of capacity of professionals to deliver. In the third part, we go, I would say, in the more practical side of the 10th step. Thanks to the work with the IRAP colleagues, we have developed a comprehensive training program that looks at assessments, road safety audits, road safety engineering, and we work with the country to make sure that not only the professionals are trained during the project, but we make sure that we leave behind a national training accreditation scheme in the country in place so that they can move along once the project has ended. This specific project of which we are talking about today, and I'm going to present in a few moments, is specifically focusing on step 5. It's really a deep dive on geometric road design standards for roads. And I will explain you, oops, if it's moving. Yeah, there you are. So here a bit of a summary of where this journey is. We started with the first 10-step project. I'm very pleased to have Robert Lisinge and Placide from UNECA. UNECA was actually the UN agency leading the very first pilot project, 10-step in Tanzania. The second one is now just started, and I see at the back the IRAP colleagues who are leading the 10-step plan Senegal and working in partnership with us and also with the PIARC. We have a similar project to this one in Africa, also for Central Asia, on road design standards, in fact, safe and inclusive road design in Central Asia, regional approach, as much as this one is also regional approach. So 3 countries in that case, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan, and there also I welcome the East colleague together with the IRAP, who are also working together with us on that one. So, oops, going too fast. There you are. Safe and inclusive road design in North and West Africa is a 30-month project being funded by the United Nations Road Safety Fund. The focus is a regional approach, but of course we start by working in depth with 3 countries, Mauritania, Morocco, and Senegal. UNESCO is the lead UN agency implementing the projects, and I salute Yaro Badr, who has been the father, together with the IRF, of this project, and Fouad as well in the back. Unfortunately, Adele from UNESCO couldn't make it today. The lead partners are the Ministry of Works and Equipment of Mauritania, and I salute Malik on my left-hand side, the Road Safety Agency of Morocco. Benasser, you can imagine, is still running after ministers today, but NARSA is also involved in the project. The ANASER, the National Road Safety Agency in Senegal, but the Ministry of course, of Senegal, who has competence when it comes to infrastructure. And I salute Mr. Kamara. I think he's a well-known figure in our sector, and I'm very pleased to meet him again. The objective is, as I just mentioned, it is really trying to improve infrastructure in this country, but going at the core by looking at geometric road design standards. It's very simple to summarize this project by saying your ministers, policymakers can make the commitments and the statements and the policy and regulation they want. At the end of the day, the engineer in the field, on the ground, will build according to the standards and the manuals and the guidelines that exist, because that's the law. He can go to jail if he doesn't. And so, unfortunately, this has been a missing link and a gap that we're trying to address with these projects. Now, key project outcomes. it's also a way when we do these projects to learn from each other. So one of the outcomes is to make sure that the countries, the 3 countries, have a very good understanding of what's the situation, that they have not only developed the recommendations but embraced the recommendations, and that we leave the countries with enhanced awareness and skills when it comes to road safety engineering, to road safety audit. And then overall in the region and hopefully beyond, there's a renewed attention to safe road design and standards. There's a long list of project deliverables, but as I mentioned, I summarize it for you. First part of the project, we really try to get to understand who is around the table or should be around the table in each of the 3 countries, and then we come together as a group, so as a regional perspective, to discuss, to understand from each other where the similarities are, where we could support the work of each other. So the objective is also to come up with some sort of framework that hopefully can be then embraced, just like the 10th step, that can be embraced and functions as a guideline for other countries in the region who would like to start and do this work as well. In every project that we do, we always have a strong capacity building component. This is not just about coming up with the new revised standard and the recommendations, but it's making sure that while we're doing all this work and we're understanding better how things are working in the countries, that we train the professionals who are either contracting the works and then assigning contracts, and those who have to deliver. So training and capacity building, which spans from government officials, but also private sector, and anyone who has anything to do with the road infrastructure. We will close the project at the end also with not only a framework that hopefully can be helpful for the region, but we specifically put down a deliverable to ensure this legacy moves forward and this work moves forward when we leave, is to make sure that there's an agreement and a well laid out process to revise the standards going forward. The problem with a lot of standards, they are done once, so most of the countries, and Malik and Kamara will tell us in a moment, these are standards from 70s, the 80s, and they are just not revised over the years as they should. Running out of time already. Of course, we took advantage of the IRF World Congress, which was hosted in Istanbul last October, to launch the project, to connect as much as we are doing today, and you'll find all this information on the IRF website. I think you have flyers on your desk as well. Know that IRF has a booth in the exhibition. The team is here at your disposal if you have questions afterwards. Now, one of the recent activities, and I thank heartily all the project partners, we set up the project steering committee, and that gives me also the opportunity to greet Marisela Ponce-Leon from SSATP program, who also joined the steering committee recently. We call in French a comité de pilotage. So it's really that committee that is high level, that includes the partners, but also some key people from each of the countries that we are working with, for having that strategic thinking, making sure that we connect at the highest level when it's needed. There is also screening and advice being done on the deliverables, and monitor progress of the project. As you can see in the slide, the membership of the steering committee is pretty varied. Of course, as I mentioned, the agencies from the different countries. We have welcome Marisela and SSATP, and the IRAP colleague as well. And we meet regularly every second month, for sure, to make sure that we keep track of how we are moving. I just want to bring to your attention as well the workshop that is coming up on the 19th of March. It's going to be an online workshop of 3 hours, open to everyone. It's a little bit of the same kind of exercise we're doing today, making sure that we bring and we throw things on the table and we discuss very, very, very openly. And so we all welcome you. And we know we are also having streamlining these web streaming this session, and we have quite a number of people are following us on remote this morning. So you're all invited to join us for that conversation. without further ado, now it's time that I rest my throat and I give the floor to some of the distinguished speakers who have accepted this invitation. And I'd like to welcome and thank all of them once again, and turn on my left-hand side immediately to pass the floor to Malik Palen, representing the Ministry of Infrastructure in Mauritania. I think in the preparation of this session and information you have received, we have laid down some questions. So in your interventions, feel free to address one or more of them. I just have one request. We would like to give the floor to as many people as possible in this room. So keep your interventions super short. Don't do as I just did, taking a lot of time. Thank you very much. Malik.
Merci beaucoup. Salam alaikum. Bonjour à tout le monde. Donc, je dois d'abord remercier donc, le Maroc pour cette opportunité qui nous est donc offerte pour discuter de ces points extrêmement importants et vous transmettre les salutations du ministre de l'Équipement et des Transports de la Mauritanie, M. Eli Oulveirik, qui devait être là, mais qui malheureusement pour des régions d'agenda n'a pas pu faire le déplacement. Donc pour ce qui concerne la Mauritanie, nous avons en Mauritanie une volonté politique affichée depuis quelques années pour prendre en charge donc, les questions de la sécurité routière. La dernière illustration de cette volonté politique est un programme prioritaire donc, pour le développement donc, des infrastructures de manière générale. Et nous avons développé à Nouakchott un programme de bus à haut niveau de service qui est un investissement de plus de 52 millions de dollars et qui a permis aujourd'hui de partager donc l'infrastructure routière au sein donc sur 40 km dans la ville de Nouakchott. Il y a un certain nombre de bus qui ont déjà été acquis. 180 bus sont prévus avant 2026. Sur ces 180, 112 ont déjà été acquis et qui sont donc aujourd'hui opérationnels à Nouakchott. Par rapport au projet, parce qu'effectivement le temps qui est imparti est assez court, donc je vais tout de suite parler des actions que nous sommes en train de mener et en quoi le projet va pouvoir aider la Mauritanie par rapport au design donc, des infrastructures routières de manière globale. En Mauritanie, nous avons un réseau routier de 7000 km et dont 1100 km donc, de voirie urbaine. Et nous avons actuellement 2500 km en cours de réalisation, dont 700 km de réhabilitation. Par rapport aux normes de conception de nos routes, nous utilisons pour nos voiries urbaines les normes françaises AFNOR, mais nous utilisons également les normes américaines ASHO et ASTM. Nous avons en Mauritanie le Code général de l'urbanisme qui date de 2007 et qui a été actualisé dernièrement en 2024. Au plan réglementaire, nous sommes en train de réviser le code de la route. Il est en cours de révision, en cours de relecture finale. Et cette révision intègre le retenu pour enfants et le bon samaritain. Vous voyez donc la nécessité d'une vaste campagne de formation des usagers de la route. Et l'utilisation des nouvelles technologies est actuellement pratiquée en Mauritanie pour la gestion des infractions à la circulation routière. Donc, simplement pour vous dire que en Mauritanie, nous sommes dans une dynamique par rapport aux recommandations donc, de la décennie d'action. Le pays a bien saisi les enjeux, les autorités ont une volonté affichée depuis quelque temps pour accompagner cette dynamique donc, de prise en charge de la sécurité routière dans sa globalité. Donc concernant le transport multimodal, comme j'ai dit tout à l'heure, nous avons donc sur l'horizon de 2026 un projet de mobilité pour Nouakchott. Le BHNS que j'ai évoqué tout à l'heure en fait partie et il est actuellement donc en cours de mise en œuvre. Par rapport à la prévention, à la sécurité routière, la Mauritanie est l'un des pays africains qui organise depuis quelques années la Journée africaine de sécurité routière et la Semaine arabe de la circulation routière. C'est des occasions d'une mobilisation nationale sur les questions de sécurité routière, aussi bien à Nouakchott que dans les régions de l'intérieur du pays. Donc c'est des moments où les imams, la société civile, les autorités locales sont mobilisées pour informer et sensibiliser. Et nous avons évalué ces actions et qui ont eu un apport assez positif par rapport à notre stratégie. Je dois dire que nous avons depuis 2006 en Mauritanie une stratégie nationale de sécurité routière qui est actuellement en cours d'actualisation et pour laquelle justement nous serons preneurs d'une expertise, de toute expertise pouvant aider le pays à aller dans le sens donc des stratégies mondiales. Par rapport à la sûreté des véhicules, nous évoluons également.
We also have centralized the technical services, which are in charge of restructuring the MOT, which needs a better organization. So when it comes to challenges, in Mauritania, we have a project to realize a tramway for Nouakchott, the capital, as well as a program for sustainable transport through walking or cycling. As you know, the design of our infrastructure does not handle fully
projet effectivement
doesn't handle fully these modes of transport, and we need to integrate them better in our program so that we can provide sustainable access to these solutions. This means better conception of our road infrastructure. The sustainable financing is also a challenge for Mauritania. Everything we do in Mauritania when it comes to road safety is solely dependent on state budget, which means we must think about, with our partners, of sustainable mechanisms to handle road safety, or at least when it comes to financing such issues. The management of traffic jams is also a problem, as well as raising awareness on behavioral change, and also better enforcement through the acquisition of radar. We do not have enough radars for the moment. When it comes now to the advantages of this project, the expected advantages, the harmonization of building standards. As I said before, we apply multiple standards. And through this project, we will go towards harmonized construction standards, both nationally and later on, after examining what's being done abroad, implementing it at home. There is also a significant need for training of our engineers, especially when it comes to the evaluation of infrastructure and the technical support that could bring our engineers to provide more inclusive and secure infrastructure. And we also need better coordination. The more people are involved in road safety, provides us with more opportunities to provide better frameworks for the coordination of the different stakeholders, as well as raise awareness of the vulnerability of certain road users, and going to this and providing better awareness raising on such vulnerabilities. We also expect to copy the best practices when it comes to road design to ensure these are implemented properly. We also would like to make the most of this opportunity provided by this project to involve the private sector, which is already working in a limited way with us, but this would be a great opportunity to involve them further. Thank you. Peace be upon you.
Translation is now working. I really apologize. We did have an issue with interpreters, but the translation is now working, so please make sure you use your headsets and choose the channel for that. I think Malika has touched upon a number of very interesting points on which we're going to come back through the interventions of the other speakers. Without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to Mr. Alassane Camara. He's the Director General for Infrastructure of Ministry of Infrastructure, Land and Transport of the Republic of Senegal.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. I would like to make the most of this platform to thank IRF for involving us in this action aiming to save lives. We would also like to thank all the stakeholders in this event and make the most of this opportunity to thank the Kingdom of Morocco and the WHO for organizing this conference. I had the privilege of attending the organization of the Stockholm Conference 5 years ago, and God has given us the opportunity to be here as well and take stock of the progress made by Senegal in the last 5 years. Indeed, we should start off by looking at our commitments, in particular our commitment to reduce mortality on the roads. I'm not sure much progress has been made despite significant efforts. The first point is that in Stockholm, Senegal had not yet signed the African Charter on Road Safety, which is now done, where Senegal has signed this charter. The second point is that in Stockholm, Senegal had not yet created a national agency for road safety, and this has been done. This is very important. And the third key element of progress is that we have, over this period, created a fund for road transport to try to not only renew the fleet, but also provide much better MOT inspections. That's in terms of governance. Clear efforts have been made in terms of governance. We also have reviewed the highway code, into which we have integrated speed limits in urban areas, especially where people are living or behind near schools and near churches and mosques, where speed limit is now 30 kilometers per hour, 20 miles per hour. In Senegal, we also heavily involve the civil society, and Mrs. Osara, present here, knows how heavily we involve the civil society in road safety. So that's providing an overview of the governance innovations. And a text has been produced to remind the people of the importance not only of respecting the highway code, but that all required action be taken by the Ministry of the Interior, the Health, and Armed Forces to ensure that more lives are saved. In Senegal, we have also made much progress in terms of infrastructure. The analysis shows that most accidents are caused by human behavior, but we must ensure that through infrastructure we create conditions to change behavior and reduce the number of deaths and injuries on our roads, which is why, as part of our strategy, I have the honor of coordinating a bet to not only update the infrastructure to the best possible standards, but have also, within the ECOWAS framework, implemented a certain number of measures. I'm not sure these are exhaustive enough, but nonetheless, in Senegal, on certain corridors, we have updated infrastructure, even if there is still much to be done, given the aggressive nature of traffic on our roads. And we need to take more measures to reduce the early degradation of our roads. We've also implemented tolled highways, which are built as per international standards and are much more secure. There was one section which was evaluated by IRAP, and all the sections were at least 3 stars, and some sections are on 4-star level, and we have made the following bet to reach 4 stars on all the sections, and this is a positive development in Senegal. But this success hides the issues that we are facing elsewhere, which is why the project that we would like to develop together is crucial to us. The geometric conception of roads, which is the topic at hand, given the important traffic in Dakar, which is an isthmus, where we have a young population in Senegal. 74% of the population is under 35. 74% of our population is under 35, which means that it is important to have an anticipatory approach for these young people who use mostly bicycles and bikes and motorbikes, to ensure that these young people are protected, as they are the most cherished and important asset. So we need to revise our geometric design standards, which has been quite an exhaustive effort, with a catalog for the dimensions of the paved roads, and this is crucial, as it will provide opportunities not only in urban areas but also in the big roads between cities, to provide better security on our roads. The other crucial point: we are also in a country that is part of a broader. I think that within the ECOWAS scale, we are working on harmonizing our road building standards. I think that developing this in Senegal would help spread this kind of improvements across the country. And that's my preliminary remarks. If there's time to speak of more topics, we'll later. Thank you very much.
Mr. Camara, and I will remind you again, there's a workshop online available and open to everyone, where we will learn more about the countries. I feel the pressure of the clock, and I apologize also for putting pressure on you, but since you mentioned about behavior and enforcement, I'd like actually to bring, to give the stage to somebody who stands on that piece of road every day together with other colleagues, checking those behaviors and having to sanction those behaviors, a perspective from that point of view, from that side of the table as well. And I'm pleased to introduce Federica Deledda, who is the Vice President of Road Patrol and also Head of Italian Police. Federica.
Can you hear me? Thank you very much. My heart is really full of joy because for the first time in one of these great events, I don't have to speak about law enforcement. And I'm very happy because on Friday, when I go back home, I can go to my little son and tell him that maths and geometry is useful. Because geometry can save lives. I want to tell you that I'm happy because some minutes ago I read on that screen that we can talk about safe and inclusive roads. I live in a country where roads are already built, and it is very difficult to do something to change them. But you are in time to build safe and inclusive roads. When you speak about inclusive roads, I think that you mean roads should not be thought for vehicles, but for road users, for people. And roads also mean places, squares, where people can meet. Please don't forget it. Don't forget that roads are also a mean to make people to get in touch. Okay, please. We are the police, and the police have to engage with the key stakeholders and exchange experiences and results. We have to engage road safety authorities regarding safe road design. We are at your disposal because we are on the spot, we detect road accidents, and we can suggest you the real causes, the real causes of road crashes. And when these causes are linked to infrastructure, we can suggest the causes to avoid further crashes, further accidents. We can collaborate, okay? This, for example, this event and all the events such this one are precious opportunities to get in touch with policymakers, with governments, with private companies, to exchange experiences, to try technologies, to exchange best practices. Okay, and we are at your disposal. We are not only law enforcement. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Federica, for that testimony on that side of the table, of the road, on the side of the road. I'd like to keep moving and turn now to Francesca Arbonell, who represents, he's the head of sector for transport and urban development division of the Union for the Mediterranean. So a perspective, a regional perspective in this case, and please, Francesca, you have the floor.
Thank you, Susanna, and Thank you for inviting us, the Union for the Mediterranean. Very much appreciated. It's an honor to share this podium with these prestigious panelists. And also, I'd like to commend IRF and UNESWOR for this project on safe and inclusive road design. In particular, because 2 of the 3 member states engaged are member states of our organization, namely Mauritania and Morocco, are members of the Union for the Mediterranean. I would like just to make 3 points, which are basically challenges that we have in the regions on collaboration, capacity building, and knowledge transfer. And the 3rd point on the need for innovative financing, since we have a bunch of multilateral development organizations in the room. So just very quickly, the UFM, the Union for the Mediterranean, is a regional intergovernmental organization. We have 43 member states, 27 from the European Union, and 16 from North Africa, the Middle East, and also the Western Balkans in Turkey. We work in different areas, basically fostering sustainable human and economic development, and also regional integration, but also on transport, and in particular in road safety. We had several transport ministerial declarations approved in the past, and associated regional transport action plans, which also focus on road safety as a priority, and these action plans were very much aligned with the global plan for the UN Decade for Road Safety, also with the global road safety performance targets, etc. But to be honest, not enough progress has been made in the region since the first regional transport action plan back in 2007. So that's why I'm attending this conference. We are sort of a strange animal here and a newcomers, but this is a bit a call, as I said, for this needed an improved collaboration, also with all the international organizations and experts in road safety in this room. Also for this need for capacity building and exchange of best practice and knowledge transfer to deliver more and better on road safety in the region. And also this need for innovative financing, also private financing. I've been hearing a lot during these days on social financing. That's very interesting innovation, and I'd like to hear more about that, on social bonds and the possibilities for this in the future. And this is to help us bridge the gap on road safety in the region, also in terms of safe and inclusive road design, both in rural and urban areas, and in the latter case, also in coordination with sustainable urban mobility planning and implementation, which is very important. And to conclude, I just look forward for continuing this conversation and to overcome these challenges, in particular in the framework of our regular meetings of the working group, UFM working group on land transport, which includes and also addresses road safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francesc. And we are delighted to work with you and look forward to bring whatever experience comes out of the project to the rest of the community that you manage. Banks and multilateral development banks have been mentioned a couple of times, and we do have quite a number of them in the table. I'd like to start from Jamie, because he's just right in front of me, but also the Asian Development Bank has done quite a lot of work on this, and I think it would be interesting to have a perspective, Jamie, from your region.
Thank you very much. Let me focus on 2 examples that we have delivered or supported governments in delivering that allowed us to push the design so they were safer and more inclusive. One is top-down, and the other example is bottom-up. I'll start with the bottom-up approach. Part of the requirements of development institutions is to undertake social assessments right at the outset of any assistance we provide. they have tended to ensure that any damage or harm caused by the project, resettlement issues, environmental issues, receive full compensation with the safeguard requirements of the respective MDBs. In this example, we actually use that social outreach to the community in a more positive way, rather than ensuring that none of the negative impacts, or the negative impacts were addressed, but asking the local community what did they want to see from the road. Staggering result. By far and away, the most important aspect was to ensure that their children could get to school safely. What happened as a result of that, we had to go back and significantly redesign and push that design limitations or current design standards around school zones to embed new impacts. So that was very much a community-driven, inclusive, bottom-up approach. The top-down approach was perhaps more looking at the data, and this is in Shaanxi in southern China. The data showed, and this is a very mountainous region, the data showed that the number of crashes was about 4 times higher than other mountainous regions, and the number of fatalities was around 12 times higher. So the government, with that depth of data, wanted to address either the design standards or the current road layout and use, and there was a community awareness program as well as the physical infrastructure. A very large assistance. It was 477 kilometers of mountainous roads and funding of 345 million. Some good results did come out of that. The number of crashes reduced by 52%, and the number of fatalities were reduced by 33%. So 2 real-world examples that we were involved with, one bottom-up in terms of the community and the inclusive requests to meet what they saw as being critical for improvements, and the other one using better data and capacity within government top-down to drive better design standards or improve and enhance those. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. That's a very interesting perspective of how we can work, in fact, from top down of bottom up. I want to go to this side of the room and now call and pass the floor to Debbie Cousins. She's the, since you mentioned also the social and environmental responsibilities or impacts that you look after in your operations. Debbie Cousins, she's the Environmental and Social Operations Director at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, EBRD. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us today. It's been a great discussion already. So just to add to what Jamie's just been saying in terms of MDBs, we at EBRD are very supportive of changes to design standards, because in our countries of operation we are finding significant challenges around that. So it's great that we're seeing your project, so thank you for that. In terms of some specific feedback, harmonisation of standards I think would be great, because that's helpful from a financing perspective, but also to support what everyone's said to date, very much a people-focused approach to designs is something that is needed, and broader stakeholder engagement, particularly around engaging with vulnerable road users and the community at large. As part of our policy review and our environmental and social policy review last year, we strengthened our commitments from clients to actually do more assessment around road safety impacts as part of their project preparation. So we're very keen to see that. So mitigate the road safety impacts in its broadest way. Also, I'd just like to mention about road safety audits. I think an important point to raise is, again, we've included that in our policy requirement alongside many other MDBs, but it's also using those to make changes. So sometimes we get reluctance when we do a road safety audit to actually implement some of the recommendations. So I don't know where you've gone with that guidance so far, but I think it's something important to talk about. There needs to be flexibility within the system to accommodate findings from the changes or recommendations that are proposed. And just a brief mention that we at EBRD recognise the need for capacity building and have an online training course for road safety engineers. It's not in every language, but it is available on our website, and it'd be great if you could reference that in the work that you're doing. But great start. This is really, really needed and very supported from our perspective.
Thank you very much, Debbie, and we know very well that course. We actually have been using as well in Tanzania and some of the training. It's a fantastic way of how you bring all these bits and pieces of different work and projects together. We'll come back. I'm seeing the capacity building people, so I'm holding Maricela, Miguel, and a couple of others in the room. I want to finish this round with the multilateral development banks and turn to Manuel from the Inter-American Development Bank. I want to make justice with your name. Yes, Manuel Rodriguez Porcel, Senior Transport Specialist at IADB.
Thank you so much, everyone. I would like to thank IRF for the invitation and also congratulate the government of Morocco for this great and impressive conference. In relation to the subject, improving road designs standards, we have identified some important points. The first one is the fact that the vision in our approach is not to focus project by project, but have a direct relationships of our government to try to have a more systemic and ambitious vision in the change of in the design standards in the countries. So, from our experience, and I think we share the same challenges in the different regions, so Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean, and other regions in the world. The national design standards have not been updated for several years. So you talk that in your countries you have design standards from 30, 40, 50 years, and change that takes a lot of time. But I think in terms of multilateral banks, we have a commitment with our clients, with our governments, to start in this way, to update the national standards and to start make the public consultations and the different steps in these processes to update the design standards. But not only focus on the road safety standards, but also in the climate resilience standards. So we talk about inclusive, resilient, and safe infrastructure. So we have an opportunity to update the national standards in these three important areas. For example, the IDB is supporting in the region different countries. In Dominican Republic, where we are working from more than 10 years, we have now a huge opportunity to implement the new design standards. We have been working with the government in Dominican Republic for 4 years ago, and now the new regulation in the design standards have passed the different steps. We have passed the public consultation, and we are near to have the new standards for the design in the country. We have introduced road safety standards, resilient approach for the hydraulic and hydraulic standard for the design of roads and bridges. And we hope that in the next few months the government will approve that in the high level, and have the new standard for the entire investments in roads in the country. The other point I like to highlight is that we have to look at the market. We have to look at the consultancy firms and contractors that are designing and implementing our projects. Once we will have new technical and design technical standards, we have to go to the academy, to the universities, to introduce that in the new curricula for the new engineers and for the new technical people that will design and will construct the infrastructure. Our investment are not focusing in greenfield projects, but in maintenance and operation and the rehabilitation of roads. So we have to introduce that in the academia, in the universities, to change the way that we are learning our engineers, our technical people, to introduce that in the projects. And the third point, and the last one, is that we have to introduce, I think our commitment is to introduce new methodologies and international standards and best practices into the projects that we are financing, and also introduce them in the standard that the governments design and implement infrastructure. I am talking about instruments like IRAP. We are working also with the Dominican Republic government, El Salvador, Ecuador, and other countries, relaying a lot of information with the IRAP standards. In Dominican Republic, we have measured more than 1,000 kilometers on that, and we will be improving almost 650 kilometers in the next years with the IRAP standards. And that shows that the change is possible. That shows that the government has new instruments that reduce discretionality and that introduce best practices, and we can help them to show that the investments are profitable, that investment in road safety are a good investment, are economical and social, have an economical and social good impact for the economy in the country, to reduce injuries, mortality, and also to be more resilient and inclusive with these new standards. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Manuel. We do have that private sector in the room, and there are people, so I'm looking at my watch. I'm going to hold you because we started a little bit later, with your permission, until 45, so you still have 15 minutes to take a breath, a coffee, and come back, because we're actually having another infrastructure session, which is part of the official program, here in this same room. So that's my mission, and I will allow us 15 minutes to get out, breathe, coffee, and come back. I want to give the floor rapidly, so I would kindly ask for your collaboration in keeping your statements and short, 2-3 minutes. So I think we have in the room Deepan Bose from World Bank. There you are, Deepan, because I think you have also quite some experience on this topic, and some examples, probably as Jamie just did, in a very succinct way. Please, Deepan.
Thank you, Susanna, and thank you for the opportunity. So I think with the other MDBs, I think World Bank also has a kind of a similar approach, where the integration between safe and inclusivity comes from the environmental and the social screening that goes into each project. And I would say the inclusivity has been traditionally given a lot of importance, and now safety is also coming in with the understanding that both go hand in hand together. So one of the things that I would mention that has really taken prominence in this kind of road design is to design the road for the particular functional use that it has been used for, rather than blindly following the standards for highway codes or things like that, which most countries do have. But again, most of these highway codes are not specified to the functional use. So that's, I think, something I would really like to highlight. Among the North and West African country, just one example, I think Morocco, which I'm at least more familiar with the work we are doing. It is, quite a success story in which the risk mapping has been done in Morocco, and also the audit and inspection, how they're integrated as part of the road safety strategy. So I think there's quite a lot of success. Some of the challenges that still lie is in terms of financing. So like the financing is only limited to the maintenance budget, but extra money needs to be allocated when these kind of audit recommendations come in and so forth. So I think financing and institutional part is one area where we can still go ahead. I'll stop at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deepan, and sorry for putting the pressure as well. I just want to make sure that we touch upon a couple of other points, the education, the capacity building, I'd like to pass the floor now to a couple of those colleagues who are really on the front line in delivering, and I'm looking at Greg, who's thinking very carefully what he's going to say. Greg, we do work very closely with the IRAP team and in partnership in many countries. How do we do it? With what results, and what role partnerships play in all this?
Yeah, thank you very much, Susanna, and thank you also to the Kingdom of Morocco and WHO for organising this fantastic event. It's really important that we have this opportunity to sit together and talk in person and share our experiences. It's invaluable. Also want to congratulate the partners, IRF and Senegal, Mauritania, Morocco, for this project that is coming. We know from experience that this sort of capacity building project can be incredibly powerful in building local ownership of the safety issues, capacity and momentum. And we've seen that with projects in Tanzania, for example, with the 10-step project, which has very similar elements to this project. Thank you, Mr. De Camara and Mr. Saar, for sharing your experiences. It's so pleasing to hear that you're making such good progress in this field, and there's so many opportunities for us to work together to continue that work. Particularly, Mr. Camara, you talked about the road that has already achieved the 3-star rating out of 5 stars for safety. That's something that really ought to be celebrated. We know from evidence that as you improve the star ratings of a road, you make very tangible, measurable reductions in deaths and serious injuries. And it demonstrates that that is achievable. It's something that's practical, that it can be implemented in your countries. And as Dipan said, matching up the design or the function of the roads with the design of the roads is at the heart of what we're talking about. And that's an example where you've done that very well. If there's one simple message that I would love to say to everyone here is this project, one of the objectives I would say is if we can finish this project and that every time in your countries, every time there is a road design, every time there is a maintenance plan, every time there is $1 spent on a road, we ask the question, what is the impact on safety of that design or dollar that's being spent? What is the star rating of each of these designs? If we ask that question, if we measure the risk on each one of those investments, it will help us to transform the way we think about the impact of our investments and bring safety to the heart of what we're doing. So thank you very much, and IRAP, we stand ready to support you all the way through this project.
Thank you very much, Greg. We touched upon a lot on capacity building, and I'm sorry for being so quick, but I want to make sure that Marisela and a couple of other speakers we have lined up have a chance to speak. Marisela, SSATP program, your perspective and how you're helping the countries in the region. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just going to basically just connect some of the dots that have been discussed. And I think it's great because just this morning, we've been with many of you in the launch of the Africa Status Report on Road Safety that together with WHO and AUC we launched. And I think, and this is the part of data, right? So we have already this report in the continental level with country profiles for each of the 3 countries also that are here that highlights part of the situation in the terms of policy, in the terms of capacity building, in the terms of audits and inspections and roads and vehicle registries and insurance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I invite you that we make use of that data that we already have. Yes, we know there's many countries, you know, that say we need to improve this, we need to improve that, we need to reduce the gap. Yes, we need to do that, but we cannot wait until that's done. And so my invitation would be, and I'll just summarize in 3 points, because I know we're running short of time. One is to use the data that we have available, and again, I invite you to have a look at that continental report and the country profiles. 2 is to make sure that all of this work that we do not stay only as a project, but that we actually look, all the partners that are here, to support the countries, to support you, as to take it to the next level, in which this project just push the actual policy, to push the actual capacity building, to give continuity to these interventions in the long term. So in the terms of financing, if there is like certain standards and certain legislations from your side, it shouldn't matter who's financing what. This and this and this should be taken care of. And with this, I mean the audits, I mean standards, I mean taking consideration all road users, because just one of the main highlights from the report is that over 50% of the deaths are actually vulnerable users. And out of those, the number one is pedestrians. So we need to take care and we need to consider them in the design of our roads. So that's my invitation. And for that, you can also count on SATP for the policy part and for the capacity building. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maricela. And we are delighted to have SATP as a member of the steering committee of this project. We're having 15 more minutes, so we still have a chance to pass the floor to a couple of other fellow speakers. I'd like to pass the floor quickly to Eduardo in the room, Eduardo Mazia, because I would like to have a perspective from private sector, those consultants who are called within the country to deliver. And what is your experience and perspective?
Thank you, Susanna. Yes, I bring the experience of as a practitioner. We have the opportunity and the pleasure to work in many countries in the region. I think it's very important. We are mainly auditors, road safety auditors, so we struggle every day with the standards, road design standards, and for sure to have uniform standards in the region is a key to succeed to reduce the number of crashes. I would like to raise just a point because we don't have so much time. I think one of the points very important in this field is road equipment. We are talking about geometry, but okay, maybe it's quite easy to design a good alignment, and let's say quite easy, but no, not so much. But road equipment is also a key for road safety. I refer specifically to road safety barriers. I think it's the time to change the approach in the region. I know that Morocco, for instance, in these days, they are launching, or they already launched the tender for, Autoroute du Maroc has launched the tender for a different approach to implement road safety barriers in the motorways, approach similar to the European one, so they are referring to the European standards that were translated in Moroccan standards. That is a fantastic case studies. I know that also in Tunisia they translated the European standards in local standards. Is the time to change the approach to push the market. That's the issue. So now the issue is, the challenge is to make the local markets ready to change the approach. Especially in French-speaking countries, the approach is the old one, where they refer to the so-called produit générique. Now it's time to develop a new market. Morocco is in the right path. I think it will be a very good case study for the future and for the other countries. I stop here.
Thank you, Eduardo. I've been holding Miguel because we're talking about, yes, having the right design standards, but fundamental having the people with the skills and the capacity that can perform properly those audits, draft those reports that will inform the decisions of the authorities. Miguel, I know like me, you like to talk a lot. In 1 minute, pass us the fundamental messages when it comes to professional skills and audits. And then I would like to give the floor to Jaro Bat, who has been father of this project together with us, and I will offer him the closing of this session. Miguel.
Thank you, Susanna. Thank you very much for allowing me to participate in this meeting. I would like to point that I totally concur with the things that Eduardo had just said. We know each other for many, many years, and I really love the perspective that David brought into the table, because, as a road safety auditor, and all my background is in civil engineering, and as Vice President of ASEBI, the Spanish Association of Road Safety Auditors, a member of the committee of SORSA, the Society of Road Safety Auditors in the UK, I need to say that standards, they must be alive. It's a document that it cannot be stopped. It needs to be retrofitted. It needs to be follow up. You need to have people that they apply the new standards and later test it to see that the safety experience that you are having with the new standard is something that you can bring into the new one. And also I need to say that complying with the standard is not going to guarantee road safety, okay? So we cannot keep ourselves in the standard saying, oh, fantastic, this is our job is done, we engineers, we apply this one and the road is going to be safe. If that was the case, we would have 0 people dying on the road if the standard they were enough, because all the engineers that we use a standard, we do as a minimum, okay? But there is nothing, apart of the money, that apply us to be beyond the standard, and that is the perspective of a road safety auditor. We are always going beyond the standard, not comply with that. I know I'm conscious of the time. I leave it in here. All for you, Susana. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. He's not only the president of ISEVI, he's also IRF lead trainer. Oh, yeah. He's the person who is delivering road safety auditors training all over the world on behalf of the IRF, and especially in the framework of all these projects. I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. I think we were supposed to have the African Development Bank in the room. Raise your hand if you are with us, or the Islamic Development Bank, maybe not. So I'd like to pass the floor to Yarob Bar. Yarob, you have several hats, former UNESCO, former minister, current lecturer at the university, but most of it a great friend, a great professional, and the one that has sat down with us writing this project proposal that was supported. Yes, we have. Yes, I'll take you right after if you don't mind. Yarob, I'll give you the floor, and then we give the floor to His Excellency, the Ambassador of Mauritania, who has just joined us.
Thank you, Susanna. It's always a pleasure to witness your passion for road safety since a long time, and I can say that this passion suits you well because you are getting younger with the time. Well, not about the project itself. With more than 40 years in teaching and practicing road design, I would like to pass a kind of lessons learned. It seems to me that obtaining safe road, Susanna, requires something more than the strict application of road safety standards. It requires mostly a smart application of road safety standards, because standards is about setting the limit, lower and upper limit for design parameters. Road engineers knows from AASHTO, for instance, let me dare give an example. AASHTO, when you select a design speed, it dictates a minimum curvature on the associated with a maximum super elevation and a maximum friction. It also dictates a maximum grade. But the whole issue is first in selecting the appropriate speed limit, when AASHTO doesn't tell how, and especially in the intermediate values that lays beyond these limits and between these limits. This requires a thoughtful application of the standards, which goes beyond engineering itself and goes beyond the strict technical compliance. Fortunately, the history of road design reveals to us many concepts that exist, starting with the concept of field of safe travel. You can imagine it was written in 1938 by Gibson and Crooks. It was then expanded by Kevin Lynch in his exploration of the view from the road. And in Morocco, I think we are much affected by the French culture, where these concepts were all grouped under the concept of lisibilité de la route during the 80s and the 90s. Employing now standards smartly transcends engineering, and it embodies a kind of art we can say, the art of designing safe roads. And I think all the challenge for the future would be how to disseminate this art of designing safer roads among the future professionals in this field. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yarob, indeed, and we hope with this project will put that first initial step to be able to do that. This brings us to the conclusion. I'd like to give the opportunity to His Excellency, the Ambassador of Mauritania, to take the floor, and then we'll wrap up the session. You will have time for your coffee, and for those interested in road safety infrastructure, come back to this room at 12, because we're going to keep going with the conversation with another session. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Merci infiniment. Je voudrais tout d'abord remercier le Royaume frère du Maroc pour l'organisation de la 4e conférence sur la sécurité routière et l'hospitalité généreuse dont nous avons fait l'objet. Je remercie l'IRF pour l'organisation de cette réunion. Et je présente les remerciements de notre gouvernement à l'IRF, à l'ESCOA, pour la...
Allow me to thank everybody and allowing partnerships for many objectives and allowing in particular the enhancement and improvement of road design and conception in Senegal, Mauritania, and Morocco in order to reduce road accidents. Our country, as you probably know, is facing many challenges in terms of road safety. Despite the will and the action of the government that has put road safety as one of the priorities, as explained by Director Malek, while he was mentioning all the measures taken by the government to enhance road safety. I would like to thank all partners and the different institutions that have shown today the interest they have for this project, and I would like to thank them in their commitment for supporting it, as I would like to ensure the will of the highest authorities of our country to continue to build modern infrastructures, meeting the international safety standards. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. This leads us to the conclusion. Permettez-moi tout d'abord de remercier l'équipe IRF, Yulia et tous les autres qui ne sont pas visibles. L'IRF. Alors, contactez-nous si vous voulez en savoir plus sur le projet. Laissez vos coordonnées. On va entrer en contact avec vous. Merci encore une fois à nos collègues de Mauritanie, du Sénégal et du Maroc aussi, et de l'UNESCO. Et permettez-moi d'exprimer ma gratitude à la Banque de développement islamique qui n'était pas avec nous aujourd'hui, mais qui nous a soutenus avec les financements supplémentaires, avec les fonds que nous avons reçus de l'UNRSF. Donc, la Banque de développement islamique va soutenir la dissémination du savoir-faire, la traduction et le renforcement des capacités et ses activités. J'aimerais également remercier tous les intervenants pour leur patience. Merci.
And for your contributions, of course, and I wish you a good continuation today. Thank you very much. If the speakers would like to join us in the front, we're going to take a family picture. Thank you.